Welcome to Preps Insider. I'm Jim Leo with BATV, and once again joined by Jay Schwab, sports editor of the Kane County Chronicle, and sports reporter Kevin Drewley of the Kane County Chronicle. Guys, we're back to talk about week one of high school football season, and in particular, the Tri-Cities football teams. It was a rough go of it for the St. Charles schools as well as Geneva and Batavia in week one. Some lopsided losses, but the good news is there's time to correct some of those fundamental mistakes that we saw here in week one. And Jay, what did you see that jumped out at you as maybe a little bit of a surprise in terms of the scores and maybe some of the action from week one?
Yeah, it was more so than the results themselves. The defensive struggles almost across the board. You have to exempt Batavia from that, but the other three schools gave up way too many points, and St. Charles East in particular, just as good of a defensive club as they were last year. You know that they're losing people and that they have to fill in holes, but just from where they were at defensively to what happened week one with Carmel putting up 56 points on them, and I know they were mixing in a few new sophomores, and Carmel's awfully good, but that final score was one where you want to kind of double check, get confirmation from a second source. That one certainly caught me off guard.
And Geneva gave up 42 points. We're used to seeing that Geneva defense dominate, and unless they're playing East St. Louis, never give up that many points against a ball club. And Rock Island was a tough opponent on the road in week one, but Kevin, what surprised you about that Geneva game?
Yeah, you mentioned the point total, and to Geneva's credit, they really were punching and counter-punching. I mean, they tied it at 28 to begin the fourth, and really what they couldn't stop or struggled to stop certainly was Rock Island on the ground. They ran it 59 out of 60 plays, one incomplete pass. Makes you wonder. But certainly their fullback, Nico Watson, was the guy who got the ball about 30 times and about 236 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, he's a big guy. Geneva knew about him coming in. They knew they were undersized on the whole this season, and they knew Rock Island had the size in this matchup. But certainly almost any time that he got it, he was peeling off big yards. He had, I think, a 57-yarder just to kind of not pad the stats because he finished pretty darn high there, but only a couple 2- and 3-yard gains most times, just either going up the middle or off to the side and getting a lot of yards. So I know that they want to correct that and correct the side, just getting up there and plugging the holes early on and not letting them get any deeper than that.
Yeah, it's a good line of scrimmage test for the Vikings here in week one before they get into the Upstate 8, because they're going to see a lot of schools that have some big offensive lines, and they're going to have to find a way to stop some quality running backs. Guys, Batavia Marmion definitely was the game of the week in terms of the local area here. What impressed you about Marmion? Quite a defensive slugfest there for week one. Both teams really batting down the hatches and doing a good job.
Yeah, it was defense in that particular game, the exception for the week, but certainly in Batavia Marmion, both teams were better defensively than they were on the other side of the ball. And Marmion, it was a game where they're a team that I think scoring 14 points, that's probably something they'll take a little personally. They expect to be more dominant than that and be able to score much more consistently than that. But it's a game where on the other side of the ball they have to feel really good. TJ Lally just showed why he's one of the most dynamic players in our area. Offensively, he had a decent night, not a great night, rushed for about 60, 65 yards, but boy, when Batavia had the chance to extend their lead and then later to tie it up real late, a couple big sacks by Lally, and he showed that on both sides of the ball he's a terrific player. And Batavia's defense held its own against Marmion, and really their Marmion's offensive line and their backfield was going to be a huge test for Batavia, and they held up to it just fine, but they have to finish drives a little bit better.
Yeah, loss for the Bulldogs, but some positive things to take out of that loss at Marmion in week one. Kane, we said it here last week, took care of business, did a great job against Burlington Central. Kevin, what impressed you? Were there any surprises in that game, or was it just kind of a businessman special in terms of Kalen just getting the job done.
I like that. I like the businessman special, and incidentally, those are my favorite baseball games to go to, the 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the weekday. But yeah, no, I'd say it's that. I mean, you look at the scores, and last year this was a 35-0 game, and a little bit closer this year. But Burlington Central also, I mean, they got a few skill guys back that are pretty good and tougher to contain. I know that Kalen was running the ball a little bit with more regularity, and you don't think that, if they wanted to, they could beat somebody 35-0 again. But I mean, they had some things that they wanted to do too. But I think they always kind of felt like the victory was in the back pocket there. But yeah, they got out and they won the first one, and I know they want to press on to better things. But they did show a lot of what they're about and what they can do, and running the ball and playing defense too. So it's not just the spread attack out there.
Well, a lot to work on in practice this week, guys. Thanks so much for joining us and helping us through week 1, and a lot to look forward to in week 2. We'll talk to you again soon.